I stood on the porch of our house, watching as Jenny's car disappeared down the driveway, heading towards the kite festival. The morning sun cast a warm glow, and the air was filled with the promise of a beautiful day. Jenny looked so happy, her eyes sparkling with excitement as she talked about the festival. Little did I know, this day would change our lives forever. Jenny had discovered her passion for flying kites a few months ago. She found solace and peace in the simple yet captivating act of launching a kite into the sky. It became her escape from the daily grind, a way to clear her mind and find joy in the colorful dance of the kites against the backdrop of the blue sky. The festival was being held on a vast field just outside the city. I remembered Jenny's excitement as she described it to me. Hundreds of people, thousands of kites, each one a unique expression of creativity and freedom. She couldn't wait for this day to arrive. Later, I learned that it was at this festival that she met Mark, an experienced kite flyer. He had stepped in to help her fix a broken kite, and from that moment on, a connection was formed. They struck up a conversation, sharing tips and stories about their mutual love for kites. Mark showed Jenny new techniques and tricks she had never seen before, sparking her curiosity and admiration. Jenny would come home, her face lit up with stories of the festival and the new friends she had made. But one name stood out more than the others, Mark. She spoke of him with a kind of reverence, calling him a true expert and a wonderful person. I noticed how her eyes would light up when she mentioned him, but I tried to push aside the uneasy feeling growing in the pit of my stomach. After the festival, Jenny began spending more and more time at the kite fields. Every weekend, she would head out early in the morning, not returning until late in the afternoon. She explained it away as practice, as honing her skills, but I could sense that there was more to it. She seemed different too, happier, more vibrant, yet distant at the same time. Our conversations grew shallow, and she often avoided my questions about her new friends. I tried to ignore the creeping suspicion that something was amiss, convincing myself that I was just being paranoid. One day, unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, I decided to drive out to the field myself. As I approached, I saw them, Jenny and Mark flying kites together, laughing and enjoying each other's company. My heart sank as I watched them from a distance, realizing that this was more than just a friendship. That evening, I confronted Jenny. She denied everything at first, claiming it was just a friendship, but her nervous demeanor betrayed her. A few days later, she confessed. She admitted that she and Mark had developed feelings for each other. She told me she never intended for it to go this far, but she couldn't resist the pull she felt towards him. I was devastated. The woman I loved and the life we had built together all seemed to be crumbling before my eyes. I didn't know how to react, torn between my love for Jenny and the overwhelming sense of betrayal. We tried to talk things through, discussing whether our relationship could be salvaged. I suggested seeing a marriage counselor, but Jenny seemed uncertain. She doubted that anything could help at this point. In the end, Jenny made her decision. She confessed that her feelings for Mark were too strong to ignore. She decided to leave and pursue a life with him. We went through the painful process of divorce, and Jenny moved in with Mark. I was left alone, struggling to rebuild my life without her. It was a painful journey, but over time, I learned to find strength within myself. I rediscovered old hobbies, made new friends, and slowly began to heal. Looking back, I realized that this painful chapter was a necessary lesson. It taught me about resilience and the importance of self-discovery. Sometimes relationships end to make way for new beginnings, and though it hurt, it also helped me grow into a stronger, more self-aware person. The day of the kite festival was perfect. The sky was a clear, endless blue, and a gentle breeze promised ideal conditions for kite flying. Jenny left the house with a bounce in her step, her excitement palpable. I kissed her goodbye, feeling a mix of pride and slight envy. She had found something that brought her so much joy, and I was happy for her. As she drove away, I settled back into my usual weekend routine, but my thoughts kept drifting back to her. I imagined her at the festival, surrounded by colorful kites of all shapes and sizes, her face lit up with pure delight. I knew this was something she loved deeply, and I was glad she had a chance to immerse herself in it fully. Later, Jenny would tell me all about how she met Mark. It was when she was struggling with a particularly stubborn kite that he approached her. She described him as confident and kind, with a knack for fixing things. He offered to help, and within minutes the kite was soaring high above the field. They introduced themselves and quickly bonded over their shared passion. Mark was a seasoned kite flyer, someone who had been attending these festivals for years. He showed Jenny new techniques and shared stories of his adventures in kite flying. They spent hours talking, flying kites, and enjoying the vibrant atmosphere of the festival. For Jenny, it was a magical day, and Mark was at the center of it. When Jenny came home that evening, she was glowing. She couldn't stop talking about the festival and all the wonderful people she had met. She spoke of Mark in particular, praising his skills and his generosity in helping her. I listened, happy to see her so enthusiastic. But there was a nagging feeling I couldn't quite shake. Over the next few weeks, Jenny's interest in kite flying grew even stronger. She began spending more time at the kite fields, practicing and perfecting her skills. She often mentioned running into Mark, saying how much she was learning from him. Each time, her eyes would light up in a way that both delighted and worried me. I tried to be supportive, asking about her progress and encouraging her to pursue her passion, yet I couldn't ignore the growing distance between us. Our conversations became increasingly superficial, centered around kites and her new friends, with little room for anything else. I started to feel like an outsider in her world. One Saturday, as I watched her pack her kite gear with an almost giddy excitement, I couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. I missed the closeness we used to share, the intimate conversations and quiet moments together. Now it seemed like kites and Mark had taken over her life. Despite my concerns, I didn't want to hold her back. I wanted her to be happy, even if it meant sharing her with this new world she had discovered. So I stayed silent, hoping that things would eventually balance out and that we would find our way back to each other. But as the weeks turned into months, it became clear that something was changing. Jenny was becoming more distant, more absorbed in her new life. She would come home late, exhausted but exhilarated, and I would listen to her stories, feeling more and more like a spectator. Then came the day when I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to see for myself what was happening. So, I drove out to the kite fields, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. As I approached, I saw them, Jenny and Mark, flying kites together, laughing and sharing an undeniable intimacy. My heart sank. I watched from a distance, feeling like an intruder. Their connection was clear, and it was something I couldn't compete with. I turned and drove home, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts and questions. That evening, I confronted Jenny. She denied any wrongdoing at first, insisting that it was just a friendship. But I could see the guilt in her eyes, the way she avoided looking at me. I pressed her, and eventually the truth came out. She confessed that she and Mark had developed feelings for each other, feelings that she couldn't ignore. I was devastated. Everything I had feared was coming true. The woman I loved, the life we had built together, was slipping away. We talked for hours, trying to make sense of what had happened and where we could go from here. I suggested counseling, desperate to find a way to save our marriage. But Jenny was uncertain. She doubted that anything could fix what had broken. In the end, she made her decision. She chose Mark. She told me that her feelings for him were too strong, that she couldn't continue living a lie. We went through the painful process of divorce, and she moved out, leaving me to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. As the days turned into weeks and then months, I struggled to adjust to my new reality. I missed Jenny terribly, but I knew that holding on to the past would only prolong the pain, so I began to focus on myself, rediscovering old hobbies and reconnecting with friends. It was a slow and painful journey, but eventually I started to heal. Looking back, I realized that this painful chapter was a necessary lesson. It taught me about resilience and the importance of self-discovery. Sometimes relationships tend to make way for new beginnings, and though it hurt, it also helped me grow into a stronger, more self-aware person. The weeks following the Kite Festival marked a significant shift in our relationship. Jenny was practically living at the kite fields, and her enthusiasm for the hobby grew stronger with each passing day. Every time she returned home, she was bursting with stories about the kites she had flown, the techniques she had learned, and of course the time spent with Mark. I tried my best to be supportive. I knew how much joy kite flying brought her, and I didn't want to take that away. Yet, a part of me couldn't help but feel neglected and overshadowed by her newfound passion. Our conversations had become monotonous, revolving solely around her experiences in the fields. The intimacy and connection we once shared seemed to be fading. One evening, as we sat down for dinner, I decided to bring it up. "Jenny, you seem so happy with your kites, and I'm really glad you found something you love, but I can't help feeling like we're drifting apart. We barely spend any time together anymore." She looked at me, her expression a mix of guilt and confusion. "I didn't realize you felt that way, Tom. I guess I've been so caught up in everything that I didn't notice. I'm sorry. I'll try to balance things better." Her words were sincere, but as the days passed, nothing changed. Jenny continued to spend most of her time with Mark at the kite fields. I started to feel like a ghost in my own home, watching her from the sidelines as she lived a life that no longer included me. My suspicions grew stronger. It wasn't just the time she spent with Mark. It was the way she talked about him, the way her eyes lit up when she mentioned his name. I wanted to believe that it was just a deep friendship, but deep down, I knew there was more to it. One Sunday, as Jenny prepared to leave for the kite fields yet again, I couldn't hold back any longer. "Jenny, is there something going on between you and Mark? I've noticed how close you two have become." She paused, taken aback by my directness. "Tom, Mark is just a friend. He's been helping me a lot with my kites, that's all. You don't have to worry." But her reassurances did little to ease my mind. I knew I needed more than words. I needed to see for myself what was happening. The next Saturday, I decided to follow her to the kite fields. I arrived discreetly, parking my car at a distance. As I walked closer, I spotted them. Jenny and Mark were standing side by side, their kites soaring high above. They were laughing, completely absorbed in each other. It was a scene of pure happiness, and it crushed me to watch it from the outside. I stayed hidden, observing them for what felt like an eternity. It was clear that their connection went beyond mere friendship. I saw the way they looked at each other, the subtle touches and shared glances. My worst fears were confirmed. That night, I confronted Jenny again. This time I couldn't hide my pain. "Jenny, I followed you today. I saw you with Mark. It's not just about kites, is it?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Tom, I didn't mean for this to happen. Mark and we have feelings for each other. I've been trying to ignore them, but it's been so hard." Hearing her admit it out loud felt like a knife to the heart. "So what now? What about us?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I love you, Tom, but I can't deny what I feel for Mark. I'm so sorry." We spent the rest of the night talking, trying to make sense of the situation. I suggested seeing a marriage counselor, hoping that maybe, just maybe, we could salvage our relationship. Jenny agreed, but there was an uncertainty in her voice that made me doubt it would work. The following weeks were a blur of therapy sessions and difficult conversations. Jenny seemed torn, caught between her love for me and her growing feelings for Mark. I wanted to believe that we could fix things, that we could find our way back to each other, but reality was a harsh opponent. One evening, after another exhausting counseling session, Jenny made her decision. She sat me down, her eyes filled with tears. "Tom, I've thought about this a lot. I can't keep living this lie. My feelings for Mark are too strong, and it's not fair to you. I need to be honest with myself and with you." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. I knew it was coming, but hearing it out loud was a different kind of pain. We both cried, holding on to each other for what felt like the last time. The love we had shared was still there, but it had changed and morphed into something unrecognizable. The divorce process was agonizing. We divided our life together piece by piece, each item a painful reminder of what we once had. Jenny moved out, leaving me in an empty house filled with memories. In the months that followed, I struggled to find my footing. The loneliness was overwhelming, and I often found myself replaying our conversations, wondering where things had gone wrong. But as time passed, I began to rediscover myself. I reconnected with old friends, picked up hobbies I had long abandoned, and slowly, piece by piece, started to rebuild my life. It was a painful journey, but it taught me about resilience and self-discovery. I realized that sometimes things fall apart to make way for new beginnings, and though it hurt deeply, it also made me stronger. Jenny and Mark had their story, and I had mine. And in the end, I learned to be okay with that. The weeks after Jenny's confession were some of the hardest of my life. Despite her decision to stay and work on our marriage, the shadow of her feelings for Mark loomed over us. We attended counseling sessions religiously, both desperate to find a way back to each other. Yet, despite our efforts, an invisible wall seemed to separate us. One Saturday morning, as we were getting ready for another session, I noticed Jenny was unusually quiet. She moved around the house like a ghost, her mind elsewhere. I knew she was thinking about Mark. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. No matter how hard we tried, Mark was always going to be a part of our relationship now. During the session, our therapist, Dr. Lewis, asked us to talk about our feelings honestly. Jenny looked at me, her eyes filled with pain. "Tom, I love you. I do. But I can't stop thinking about Mark. Every time we're together, I feel like I'm betraying you. I don't know how to let go of these feelings." Hearing her say this out loud was devastating. It was like all the air had been sucked out of the room. I struggled to find my voice. "Jenny, I don't know how to compete with that. I don't know how to make this work when there's always going to be someone else in the picture." Dr. Lewis interjected gently. "It's clear that there's a lot of unresolved emotion here. Jenny, your feelings for Mark are real, but so is your commitment to Tom. The question is, can you both find a way to move forward, either together or separately, in a way that honors your feelings and your marriage?" The session ended with no clear resolution. We drove home in silence, the weight of our predicament heavy in the air. That evening, as we sat on the couch, Jenny turned to me. "Tom, I think I need some time away. I need to figure out what I want. This isn't fair to either of us." I nodded, my heart breaking all over again. "If that's what you need, Jenny, then take the time. I just want you to be happy, whatever that means." Jenny packed a bag and left that night. She went to stay with a friend, leaving me alone in our house, surrounded by the remnants of our life together. The days that followed were a blur of pain and confusion. I missed her terribly. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. The constant tension, the feeling of being second best was gone, if only temporarily. During this time, I tried to keep myself busy. I threw myself into work, spent time with friends, and even picked up a new hobby, photography. It was something I had always been interested in, but never had the time to pursue. Now it became a lifeline, a way to fill the void Jenny had left behind. Weeks turned into months, and slowly I began to heal. I found solace in capturing the beauty of the world through my camera lens, seeing things from a different perspective. It helped me process my emotions, to see that life still had beauty and meaning, even without Jenny by my side. Jenny and I kept in touch sporadically. She told me that she and Mark had started seeing each other more seriously, and while it hurt to hear, I knew it was something I had to accept. I wished her well, genuinely hoping that she would find the happiness she was searching for. One evening, as I was reviewing some photos, my phone rang. It was Jenny. "Tom, can we meet? I think we need to talk." We agreed to meet at a small cafe we used to frequent. When I arrived, Jenny was already there, looking nervous. We ordered our drinks and sat in silence for a moment before she spoke. "Tom, I want to thank you for giving me the space I needed. It helped me realize a lot of things." I nodded, unsure of where this conversation was heading. "What did you realize, Jenny?" She took a deep breath. "I realized that I do love Mark, but what we had was something different. It wasn't just about the kites or the excitement of something new. It was about feeling understood and seen. But with you, it's different. It's deeper. It's rooted in years of love and shared experiences. I can't just throw that away." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a glimmer of hope. "So, what does that mean for us?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know that I want to try. If you're willing, I want to see if we can rebuild what we've lost." It was a difficult decision. Part of me wanted to jump at the chance to have her back, but another part of me was wary of getting hurt again. After a long pause, I finally said, "Jenny, I want to try too, but it has to be different this time. We both need to be honest about our feelings and what we want." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I promise, Tom, I want to do this right." The road to rebuilding our relationship was long and fraught with challenges. We continued counseling, both individually and together. We took things slowly, learning to communicate better and to be more open about our needs and desires. There were setbacks and moments of doubt, but gradually, we began to find our way back to each other. In the process, I discovered a strength I never knew I had. I learned that love isn't just about the good times, but about facing challenges together, about forgiveness and growth. Jenny and I weren't the same people we were before, and our relationship had changed, but we were both committed to building something new, something stronger, and so, with time, patience, and a lot of hard work, we began to heal. The past was still there, a reminder of the lessons we had learned, but it no longer defined us. We were moving forward, together, one step at a time. Despite our efforts to rebuild, the growing distance between Jenny and me was undeniable. Even as we tried to reconnect, the specter of Mark and the life she had found outside our marriage loomed over us. The intimacy we once shared felt like a distant memory, replaced by awkward silences and forced conversations. Jenny continued to spend her weekends at the kite fields, and though she assured me that her relationship with Mark was strictly professional, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I wanted to trust her, to believe that we could move past this, but doubt had taken root in my heart. One Friday evening, Jenny came home later than usual. She looked tired, but there was a spark in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. "I had a great day at the field," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "Mark showed me this new trick with the kites, and I finally nailed it. It felt amazing." I forced a smile, trying to share in her happiness. "That's great, Jenny. I'm glad you're enjoying it." But inside I was crumbling. It was clear that the kite fields had become her sanctuary, a place where she felt alive and free, and I was no longer a part of that world. As the weeks went by, the distance between us grew. We went through the motions of daily life, but the connection we once had was slipping away. I missed the days when we would spend hours talking about our dreams and plans, the lazy Sundays curled up on the couch watching movies, and the simple joy of being together. Now, it felt like we were just two people sharing a house, living parallel lives. One evening, I decided to confront Jenny about my feelings. We were sitting in the living room, the silence between us thick with unspoken words. "Jenny, we need to talk. I feel like we're drifting apart, and I don't know how to fix it." She looked up from her book, her expression pained. "Tom, I know things have been tough. I'm trying to balance everything, but I feel like I'm losing myself in the process." "Maybe it's not about balance," I said quietly. "Maybe it's about figuring out what we want, what makes us happy." Jenny sighed, setting her book aside. "I love you, Tom. I do. But I can't ignore how much joy the kites and the people at the field bring me. It's become a part of who I am." "And where does that leave us?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," she admitted. "I feel torn between two worlds, and I don't know how to bring them together." The uncertainty in her voice broke my heart. We were at an impasse, and neither of us had the answers. We decided to take a break from counseling, feeling that it was only highlighting our differences rather than helping us find common ground. In an attempt to bridge the gap, I suggested spending a weekend together, away from everything. A small getaway, just the two of us, to reconnect and remember why we fell in love in the first place. Jenny agreed, and we planned a trip to a cabin in the mountains, a place we had visited early in our relationship. The cabin was just as I remembered it, cozy and secluded, surrounded by towering trees and the serene beauty of nature. For a moment, it felt like we had stepped back in time to a simpler, happier period in our lives. The first evening, we sat by the fire, sipping wine and talking about the past. We laughed about old memories and shared stories we hadn't thought about in years, and for a brief moment, it felt like we were again. But as the weekend went on, the underlying tension resurfaced. I could see it in Jenny's eyes, the way she would occasionally glance at her phone, the subtle restlessness in her movements. She was here with me, but part of her was still back at the kite fields with Mark. On the last night, as we lay in bed, I finally voiced the fear that had been gnawing at me. "Jenny, are we just delaying the inevitable? Are we trying to hold on to something that's already gone? She turned to me, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't want to believe that, Tom, but I can't deny that things have changed. I love you, but I don't know if that's enough anymore. Her words hung in the air, a painful acknowledgement of the truth we had both been avoiding. We held each other tightly that night, as if trying to hold on to the last fragments of our relationship. When we returned home, the reality of our situation hit us even harder. The distance between us was more pronounced than ever, and despite our best efforts, we were drifting further apart. It became clear that our paths were diverging, and no amount of trying could change that. The following weeks were a painful blur. We continued to live together, but it was like living with a stranger. The love and connection we once had were overshadowed by the growing realization that we were no longer right for each other. One evening, as we sat in silence at the dinner table, Jenny finally spoke the words we both knew were coming. Tom, I think it's time for us to let go. This isn't working, and it's not fair to either of us. I nodded, my heart heavy with sorrow. I know. I think we both knew this day would come. We talked late into the night, discussing the practicalities of separating, the division of our belongings, and how to move forward. It was a heartbreaking conversation, but it was also filled with a sense of relief. We were finally facing the truth. In the end, we decided to part ways amicably. We both needed space to find ourselves again, to pursue the things that made us happy. It was a painful decision, but it was also a necessary one. Jenny moved out a few weeks later, and I was left alone in the house that had once been our home. The silence was deafening, but it was also a blank canvas, a chance to start anew. As I packed away the remnants of our life together, I felt a mix of sadness and hope. The past was behind us, but the future was still unwritten. And though it was a future without Jenny, it was one where I could find myself again and rediscover who I was and what I wanted from life. The growing distance between us had led to an inevitable conclusion, but it also opened the door to new beginnings. It was time to embrace the unknown, to face the challenges ahead, and to find my path forward. After Jenny moved out, I threw myself into work and hobbies to keep my mind occupied. The house felt emptier than ever, the silence a constant reminder of the life we once shared. I missed her presence, but I also knew that this was the right path for both of us. One evening, about a month after Jenny had left, I received an unexpected text from her. "Can we meet? There's something important we need to talk about." My heart raced as I read the message. We had barely spoken since she moved out, and I couldn't help but wonder what this was about. I agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown, a neutral ground where we could talk without the weight of our shared past hanging over us. When I arrived at the cafe, Jenny was already there, sitting at a table near the window. She looked anxious, her fingers tapping nervously on the table. I took a deep breath and walked over, taking a seat across from her. "Hi, Jenny," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's going on?" She looked up, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "Tom, there's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to come out with it. I'm pregnant." The words hit me like a freight train. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Pregnant?" I managed to choke out. "Is it—" "It's Mark's," she confirmed, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt a whirlwind of emotions, anger, betrayal, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. This was the final piece of the puzzle, the confirmation that our lives were truly on separate paths now. "How long have you known?" I asked, struggling to keep my composure. "A few weeks," she admitted. "I didn't want to tell you until I was sure, and now that I am, I thought you deserved to know." I nodded, trying to process the information. "What does this mean for us, Jenny?" She sighed, looking down at her hands. "I think it means we need to finalize our separation, Tom. There's no going back now. Mark and I, we need to figure out our future, and I can't do that while I'm still holding on to the past." Her words made sense, but they still hurt. I had hoped, somewhere deep down, that we might find a way back to each other, but this news shattered that hope completely. "I understand," I said quietly. "I wish you the best, Jenny. I do." We sat in silence for a few moments, both of us lost in our thoughts. Finally, Jenny reached across the table and took my hand. "Tom, I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt you. I hope someday you can forgive me." I squeezed her hand, a small gesture of love and forgiveness that still lingered despite everything. "I forgive you, Jenny." I hope you find happiness." With that, we parted ways, the finality of our situation settling in. It was over. Truly over. There was no more us, just two people moving forward on separate paths. In the days that followed, I focused on finalizing the divorce. It was a painful process, but it also felt like a necessary step towards healing. I needed to close this chapter of my life completely to move on. One evening, as I was packing up some of Jenny's remaining belongings, I came across an old photo album. Flipping through the pages, I saw pictures of happier times, vacations, holidays, everyday moments filled with love and laughter. It was bittersweet, a reminder of what we had lost, but also of the good times we had shared. I decided to pack the album away, along with my other memories of Jenny. It was time to let go of the past and focus on the future. I reached out to friends, started attending social events, and even went on a few dates. It wasn't easy, but I was determined to rebuild my life. Months passed, and slowly I began to heal. I found joy in small things, a beautiful sunset, a good book, a new friendship. Life went on, and so did I. Then one day, as I was walking through the park, I saw a familiar figure flying a kite. It was Mark, and next to him was Jenny, her belly visibly pregnant. They looked happy, and for a moment a pang of jealousy shot through me. But then I realized that their happiness didn't diminish mine. We were all moving forward, finding our paths. I watched them for a few moments, then turned and walked away, a sense of peace settling over me. The final confrontation had been painful, but it was also the closure I needed. Jenny and Mark had their future, and I had mine. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. As I reflect on the journey that brought me to this moment, I'm struck by the twists and turns life has taken. From the depths of heartache to the heights of love, each step has shaped me in profound ways. Sarah and I have been together for over a year now, and our bond continues to deepen. We've weathered challenges together, grown stronger as a couple, and embraced the joys of building a life together. She brings light and laughter into my days, and I'm grateful for her presence in my life. But amidst the joy and love, there are still moments of reflection and introspection. The memories of my marriage to Jenny, the pain of betrayal, and the journey of healing are never far from my mind. They are a part of me, woven into the fabric of my being, shaping the person I am today. I've come to realize that life is a series of choices, some made for us, some made by us. The path we walk is not always smooth or clear, but it's ours to navigate. And in the end, it's not the destination that defines us, but the journey itself. I've learned to embrace the lessons of the past without allowing them to define my future. Each experience, whether joyful or painful, has been a stepping stone on the path to self-discovery and growth. And though the road ahead may be uncertain, I walk it with courage and conviction, knowing that I am stronger and wiser for the journey. As I look towards the future, I see endless possibilities stretching out before me. Sarah and I have dreams and aspirations, goals we hope to achieve together, but beyond the tangible milestones lies the intangible essence of life, the moments of connection, the shared experiences, the simple joys that make it all worthwhile. I've come to realize that happiness isn't found in the destination, but in the journey itself, in the people we meet, the love we share, and the memories we create along the way. And so as I embrace the next chapter of my life, I do so with an open heart and a sense of gratitude for the journey that brought me here. For in the end, it's not about where we end up, but how we choose to travel the road that matters most. And as long as I have love in my heart and courage in my step, I know that the journey will always lead me home. In the months that followed, life settled into a comfortable rhythm with Sarah. Our relationship blossomed, deepening with each passing day. Together, we explored new places, shared dreams, and faced challenges as a team. But amidst the joy and excitement, there lingered a sense of unfinished business, a need for closure that still tugged at the corners of my heart. One afternoon, as Sarah and I were going through some old boxes in the attic, we stumbled upon the photo album from my time with Jenny. Flipping through the pages, memories came flooding back. The smiles, the laughter, the love we had shared. But intertwined with the happy moments were reminders of the pain and heartache that had marked the end of our marriage. As I looked at the photos, I realized that I needed to confront the past to truly move forward. I needed closure, not just for myself, but for Sarah and our relationship as well. So, with her support, I reached out to Jenny, hoping to have a final conversation that would bring peace to us both. Jenny agreed to meet, and we arranged to have coffee at a nearby cafe. As I waited for her to arrive, my heart pounded with anticipation. I didn't know what to expect from our conversation, but I knew that it was a necessary step in my journey towards healing. When Jenny walked in, she looked nervous, her eyes avoiding mine. We exchanged awkward greetings and then settled into our seats. For a moment there was silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. Finally I spoke. "Jenny, thank you for meeting me. I know this isn't easy for either of us, but I think it's important for us to have this conversation." She nodded, her gaze fixed on her hands. "I agree, Tom. There are things we need to say, things we've been avoiding for too long." And so we talked about our marriage, our regrets, and the pain we had caused each other. There were tears and apologies, but also moments of understanding and forgiveness. It wasn't easy, but with each word spoken, a weight lifted from my shoulders. As we said our goodbyes, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Our conversation hadn't magically erased the past, but it had allowed us to acknowledge it, to make peace with it, and to move forward with a sense of acceptance and forgiveness. Walking out of the cafe, hand in hand with Sarah, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought me to this moment. The road had been long and challenging, marked by heartache and loss, but it had also been filled with moments of growth, love, and redemption. With closure comes a sense of freedom, the freedom to let go of the past and embrace the present, to release the burdens that weigh us down, and to step boldly into the future. And as I looked ahead, hand in hand with Sarah, I knew that whatever challenges lay in store, we would face them together, with open hearts and unwavering courage. For in the end, it's not the destination that matters, but the journey itself, the people we meet, the lessons we learn, and the love we share along the way. And as long as we continue to walk this path together, hand in hand, I know that the future holds infinite possibilities. With closure achieved and the weight of the past lifted, Sarah and I embarked on a new chapter of our lives together. We were ready to embrace the future with open hearts and minds, eager to see where our journey would take us. Our relationship continued to flourish, strengthened by the trials we had overcome and the love we shared. We laughed, we cried, we celebrated each other's victories, and we supported each other through the inevitable challenges life threw our way. As our love deepened, so too did our dreams. We talked about traveling the world, starting a family, and building a home filled with love and laughter. Each conversation brought us closer together, reinforcing the bond that held us fast through the ups and downs of life. One evening, as we sat on the balcony of our apartment, watching the sunset over the city skyline, Sarah turned to me with a sparkle in her eyes. "Tom, I have something I want to ask you." I looked at her curious. "What is it, Sarah?" She took a deep breath, her hand reaching for mine. "I love you more than words can express, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" My heart skipped a beat as I stared at her in disbelief. At that moment, all the pieces of my life fell into place, and I knew without a doubt that she was the one I wanted to spend forever with. "Yes, Sarah," I said, my voice choking with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Tears welled up in her eyes as she slipped a ring onto my finger, sealing our love with a promise of forever. In that simple gesture, we embarked on a new journey together, one filled with love, hope, and the promise of a future brighter than we could have ever imagined. In the months that followed, we began planning our wedding, a celebration of love and new beginnings. It was a joyous occasion, filled with laughter, tears, and moments of pure happiness. Surrounded by our loved ones, we exchanged vows and rings, promising to stand by each other's side through thick and thin. As we danced under the stars, hand in hand, I knew that this was just the beginning of our journey together. With Sarah by my side, I felt invincible, ready to face whatever challenges life had in store with courage, grace, and unwavering love. As we looked out at the world before us, I knew that no matter where our journey took us, as long as we were together, we would find happiness, fulfillment, and endless possibilities. For in the end, it's not the destination that matters, but the journey itself, the journey of love, growth, and new beginnings that we had embarked on together. And as long as we walked hand in hand, I knew that our future was bright, our hearts full, and our love eternal. With our wedding behind us and our hearts full of love, Sarah and I set out on a new adventure together. We'd always dreamed of traveling the world, experiencing new cultures, and making memories that would last a lifetime. And now, with our love as our compass, we were ready to turn those dreams into reality. We started our journey with a honeymoon in Europe, exploring the romantic streets of Paris, the historic landmarks of Rome, and the picturesque villages of the Amalfi Coast. Each new destination brought us closer together, deepening our bond as we navigated the wonders of the world hand in hand. From there, we ventured further afield, embarking on a whirlwind tour of Asia. We marveled at the ancient temples of Angkor Wat, trekked through the lush jungles of Borneo, and savored the vibrant flavors of street food in Bangkok. It was a journey of discovery, both of the world around us and of ourselves. As we traveled, we met people from all walks of life, locals eager to share their stories, fellow travelers with tales of their adventures, and kindred spirits who became fast friends. Each encounter left its mark on us, enriching our lives in ways we could never have imagined. But amidst the excitement of our travels, there were moments of reflection and introspection. We visited places of historical significance, learned about cultures different from our own, and confronted the realities of the world, both its beauty and its challenges. And through it all, our love remained a guiding light, anchoring us amid uncertainty and change. As our journey continued, we found ourselves drawn to the natural wonders of the world. We hiked through the majestic mountains of Patagonia, sailed along the pristine coastlines of the Galapagos Islands, and camped under the starlit skies of the African savanna. It was in these moments, surrounded by the awe-inspiring beauty of nature, that we felt most alive. But amidst the grandeur of the natural world, it was the quiet moments together that we treasured most. The late-night conversations by the campfire, the lazy mornings spent watching the sunrise, the simple joys of being together in a world that felt infinite and full of possibility. As our journey drew to a close, we returned home with hearts full of memories and spirits renewed. Our travels have changed us in profound ways, deepening our love, broadening our perspectives, and reminding us of the beauty and resilience of the human spirit. But more than anything, our journey had reaffirmed what we had known all along, that love is the greatest adventure of all, and that as long as we had each other, we could weather any storm, conquer any challenge, and embrace the world with open arms and open hearts. And so, as we settled back into our lives together, we carried with us the lessons of our journey, the importance of love, of connection, and of living each day to the fullest. For in the end, it's not the places we go or the things we see that matter most, but the love we share and the memories we create along the way. And with Sarah by my side, I knew that our greatest adventure was just beginning. Back home, after our incredible journey, Sarah and I embarked on the next phase of our lives together. Filled with a renewed sense of purpose and passion, we set about building the future we had always dreamed of. One of our priorities was finding a place to call home, a sanctuary where we could plant our roots and build a life together. After much searching, we stumbled upon a charming house nestled in the countryside, surrounded by rolling hills and lush greenery. It felt like fate, and we knew instantly that it was the perfect place for us. We poured our hearts into making the house our own, painting walls, planting gardens, and filling the rooms with love and laughter. With each passing day, it became more than just a house. It became a home, a reflection of our shared dreams and aspirations. As we settled into our new life, we began to explore new avenues of growth and fulfillment. Sarah pursued her passion for photography, launching her own business and capturing the beauty of the world through her lens. Her talent and dedication soon caught the attention of clients near and far, and her work was featured in galleries and exhibitions around the world. Meanwhile, I focused on my career, taking on new challenges and opportunities with enthusiasm and determination. I found fulfillment in my work, knowing that each day brought me one step closer to achieving my goals and making a positive impact in the world. But amidst the busyness of our lives, we always made time for each other, for quiet dinners by candlelight, long walks in the countryside, and lazy weekends spent cuddled up on the couch. Our love remained the cornerstone of our lives, grounding us in moments of joy and guiding us through moments of uncertainty. As the years passed, our love only deepened, growing stronger with each passing day. We faced challenges together, loss, illness, and setbacks, but through it all our bond remained unbreakable. Together, we weathered the storms of life, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. And as we stood together, hand in hand, watching the sunset over the horizon, I knew that our journey was far from over. There were still mountains to climb, dreams to chase, and adventures to be had. But with Sarah by my side, I knew that anything was possible, for our love was timeless, boundless, and infinite. And so, as we looked towards the future, we did so with hope and excitement, knowing that together we could conquer the world. For in the end, it's not the destination that matters, but the journey itself. And with Sarah by my side, every step of the way, I knew that our journey would be nothing short of extraordinary. As Sarah and I grew older together, we found ourselves reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this point, a lifetime filled with love, laughter, and countless cherished memories. Our home had become a sanctuary, a place where our love flourished and our hearts overflowed with gratitude for the life we had built together. The walls echoed with the laughter of children and grandchildren, the rooms filled with the warmth of family and friends. We had weathered the storms of life together, the highs and lows, the triumphs and tribulations, and emerged stronger and more united than ever before. Our love had stood the test of time, a beacon of light in a world sometimes shrouded in darkness. As we looked back on the years gone by, we marveled at all that we had accomplished together, the adventures we had shared, the dreams we had chased, the obstacles we had overcome. Each moment was a testament to the strength of our bond, the power of our love, and the beauty of a life lived with purpose and passion. But amidst the joy and fulfillment, there were also moments of reflection and introspection. We had faced our fair share of challenges, illness, loss, and the inevitable passage of time. But through it all, our love had remained unwavering, a constant source of comfort and strength. As we sat together on our porch, watching the sunset over the horizon, we knew that our time together was precious, fleeting, and yet infinitely precious. We held each other close, savoring the simple pleasures of life, the touch of a hand, the sound of a laugh, the beauty of a shared moment. And as the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, we made a silent promise to each other, to cherish every moment, to live with gratitude and grace, and to continue writing the story of our love for as long as we both shall live. For in the end, it's not the grand gestures or the epic adventures that define a life, but the quiet moments of connection, the simple acts of kindness, and the deep, abiding love that binds two souls together for eternity. And as we closed our eyes, wrapped in each other's arms, we knew that no matter what the future held, as long as we had each other, we had everything we would ever need. As time passed, Sarah and I began to realize that among all the joys and triumphs of our lives, there were moments that we lost, yet they left an indelible mark on our hearts. These were the moments we spent apart when our love seemed unattainable, but ultimately made us stronger and brought us closer together. One such moment was our year-long separation when work took me to another city. It was a time of trials when our connection endured through thick and thin. But thanks to phone calls, letters, and rare meetings, we managed to overcome all obstacles. This experience taught us to cherish every second together and never take each other for granted. Another significant moment was our disagreements and misunderstandings as we navigated the path to a life together. Our personalities and life principles sometimes clashed, but every time we reconciled and discussed our differences, our bond grew stronger. We learned from each other, grew together, and strengthened our understanding and respect. But the most significant moment we lost, yet remained with us forever, was the time spent with our parents and loved ones who had already passed away. Their absence was an irreplaceable loss, but their memories stayed with us every day, reminding us of the value of family, love, and living in the present. Reflections on lost yet significant moments were like shadows of our past, reminding us that even in dark times there is light ahead. They strengthened our bond, filled our lives with profound meaning, and helped us become who we are today. And while these moments remained in the past, they continued to inspire us in the present and fill our lives with deep feelings of gratitude and love. We knew that without these lost yet significant moments, our story would not be as rich and meaningful as it is now. As time marched forward, Sarah and I found ourselves at a crossroads, contemplating the legacy we wanted to leave behind. We had built a life filled with love, adventure, and cherished memories. But now we felt a calling to pass on the torch to the next generation. With our children growing and starting families of their own, we realized that our role as parents was evolving. It was no longer just about guiding and supporting them. It was about imparting the lessons we had learned, the values we held dear, and the love that had sustained us through it all. We gathered our family together, children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren, and shared stories of our journey, the triumphs and tribulations, the joys and sorrows. We spoke of the importance of love, resilience, and staying true to oneself, and we encouraged them to follow their dreams and never lose sight of what truly mattered in life. But more than just words, we sought to lead by example, showing our family what it meant to live with integrity, compassion, and gratitude. We volunteered in our community, supported causes close to our hearts, and welcomed strangers into our homes with open arms and open hearts. As we watched our children and grandchildren grow and thrive, we felt a profound sense of pride and fulfillment. They were carrying on our legacy in their unique way, spreading love and kindness wherever they went and making the world a better place, one small act at a time. But passing on the torch wasn't just about our family. It was about leaving a legacy that would endure for generations to come. We established a foundation to support causes we were passionate about: education, healthcare, and environmental conservation, ensuring that our impact would continue long after we were gone. And as we looked towards the future, we knew that our greatest legacy would be the love we shared, a love that had stood the test of time, weathered every storm, and grown stronger with each passing day. It was a legacy that would live on in the hearts of our family, inspiring them to live with purpose, passion, and unwavering love. For in the end, it's not the wealth or the accolades that define a life, but the love we give and the lives we touch along the way. And as we passed on the torch to the next generation, we knew that our journey was far from over. For love is timeless, boundless, and infinite, and it will continue to guide us all on the path to a brighter future. As the years passed by, Sarah and I found ourselves entering a new phase of life, the sunset years. It was a time of reflection, of slowing down, and of cherishing the moments we had left together. We had lived a full and rich life, filled with love, adventure, and countless memories. But now, as we felt the weight of age upon us, we knew that our time was limited, and we were determined to make the most of every precious moment. We spent our days surrounded by the beauty of nature, taking long walks in the countryside and watching the sunset from our favorite spot by the lake. We savored the simple pleasures of life, the sound of birdsong in the morning, the feel of the sun on our faces, the warmth of each other's embrace. But amidst the tranquility of our days, there were also moments of reflection and introspection. We thought back on the journey we had taken together, the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and tribulations, and we marveled at how far we had come. We spoke of our hopes and dreams for the future, of the legacy we hoped to leave behind, and of the love that had sustained us through it all. And as we looked into each other's eyes, we knew that our bond was as strong as ever, transcending time and space. As the years went by, our bodies grew frail, but our spirits remained indomitable. We faced each new challenge with courage and grace, knowing that we had each other to lean on, to laugh with, and to love until the end of time. As we approached the sunset of our lives, we did so with a sense of peace and acceptance, knowing that we had lived a life filled with love, laughter, and endless adventure. For in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, but the life in your years. And ours has been a life well lived, a love well shared, and a journey filled with infinite beauty and grace. As the sun began to set on our lives together, Sarah and I found ourselves facing our greatest challenge yet, saying goodbye. We had known for some time that our time on this earth was drawing to a close, but now, as we felt the cold hand of mortality upon us, we knew that the end was near. We gathered our loved ones around us, children, grandchildren, and dear friends, and shared our final moments. There were tears and laughter, memories shared and stories told as we celebrated the life we had lived and the love that had sustained us through it all. We spoke of our hopes and dreams for the future, of the legacy we hoped to leave behind, and of the love that would endure long after we were gone. We thanked our family and friends for their love and support, for the joy and laughter they had brought into our lives, and for being there for us until the very end. And as the time came for us to part, we did so with hearts full of love and gratitude, knowing that we would always be together in spirit if not in body. We held each other close, whispering words of love and comfort until the very end. And as we took our final breaths, surrounded by the ones we loved most in this world, we knew that our journey was not ending, but merely beginning anew. For in death, as in life, love knows no bounds, and our souls would be forever intertwined, bound together for eternity. And so, as we bid farewell to this world and all its sorrows, we did so with a sense of peace and acceptance, knowing that we had lived a life filled with love, laughter, and endless adventure. And as we crossed over into the great unknown, hand in hand, we knew that our love would light the way, guiding us home at last.